Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Julie Wall. I'm the Director of Education at the Michigan Parkinson's Foundation. This is our virtual education series that takes place monthly. We will be recording today's program and it will be available on our YouTube channel. And we have a pretty comprehensive library with many different topics in addition to our exercise classes and even video recordings or lectures from past symposiums and different educational events we've done over the years and across the state. So I'm very excited about tonight's program. We have three people that are joining us that are going to share their story, three adult children of Parkinsonians. And I'm going to be very respectful of time. We will be able to answer questions, but my hope for this program is that I am a child of a Parkinsonian myself, and a lot of times things are not talked about, and children can have a fear because they aren't talked about and they don't know. And I don't think there is anything to fear. I'm a big proponent of being educated and being part of the team. And so hopefully this program will shed some insight to parents and children on maybe the different feelings that everybody shares. I think this is going to be a pretty popular topic. And I actually am hopeful that we'll be able to have a whole series of adult children talks. So without further ado, let me see if I can share my screen here. I hope for it anyways. Okay, so far so good. Can everybody see that screen? Thumbs up, okay. All right. So our first speaker that we have, and now it's not working. All right, that's not good. There we go. Is Jamen Spitzer. Jamen's dad, Ben, had Parkinson's disease, and Jamen is an incredible advocate, child, human being, adult. I can't say enough about him, and I'm so thrilled that he could join us today to tell us about his story. So Jamen, I am just trying to pin you really quick and have you start us off.
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah, my name is Jamen Spitzer. I live in Grosse Pointe now. I grew up in Holly, Michigan. My dad is Ben Spitzer. You can see him there in the picture with the handsome smile there. And that's me pushing him in a chair as we prepared for the Detroit Marathon, which I pushed him in 2023. That's what Run for Ben is. What else would you like to know, Julia? Is that
Sure. Sorry, can you believe that I wasn't having one technical problem? And of course, the minute that we start, here it goes. Right. So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. One, do you remember when your dad was diagnosed or when you found out about it and what your initial thought was?
Yeah, I do remember pretty clearly when he was diagnosed. My cousin actually saw that he had a stiffened gait and said he was walking like an old man. And she's pretty comical. And he went and got checked. And so my mom had kind of mentioned that he was checking why his walk was a little bit different. And then found out that it was went through the list of what it wasn't to finally find out that it was Parkinson's. And I remember meeting him for lunch and seeing what they were talking about, the kind of stilted walk, which affected his right side first. And then when I heard it was Parkinson's, my initial reaction was, I mean, I knew almost nothing about it other than Michael J. Fox had it and Muhammad Ali had it, and that you shook when you had it. That was pretty much the extent of my knowledge of Parkinson's. So I had an immense amount of fear right around the start. Like I was getting ready for, my dad to like pass away. I didn't know when, he was going to die. I started having dreams about it pretty quickly, and just had a lot of fear about it. And that's when I learned about it. Yeah.
And do you remember like was it so you had a lot of fear? Did you did you have any anger?
Um, I didn't really have a lot of anger on it. I thought it was a big ripoff. Like I didn't. Because my dad like worked out all the time and was healthy, ish, other than the, big bowls of ice cream that he ate every night. But like for the most part, my dad was healthy and took care of himself, and nobody else in our family had Parkinson's or anything. There was no experience with it. So I wasn't really angry. I was just kind of more baffled as to like why and like what does it mean for him? And like, he was like 52 years old. So I was like, why is he getting this now? And like, how is this going to affect him? And like, how do I show up? So that more for me, it was more just confusion and not really knowing what to do. And yeah, I don't remember having a lot of anger,
Anger.
just more, yeah,
Okay.
confusion and helplessness. A lot of like helplessness
Yeah,
that was overwhelming is I can't do anything.
right.
That for years. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that kind of leads into my next question because you were you grown out of the house when your dad was diagnosed and living your own life kind of? Um,
Yeah.
were there barriers that fed into it, like distance or jobs or something that you really felt like you weren't there to see what was going on or know what was going on or anything like that?
Initially, no, I was in Ferndale and they lived in Holly. So I was back and forth visiting them fairly often. Um, so there wasn't a lot of that. But however, I had met my girlfriend at that time and we were planning moving to Los Angeles to pursue, comedy and acting and those type of things. So there was a big barrier as to like, wait a second, my dad was just diagnosed and I'm like going out to do, to move to Los Angeles. So I had to try to work through that. But my dad, for those who probably don't know, which is everybody other than Julia, did magic and juggling shows. He was an entertainer. So Spitzer and Sons Magic and Juggling. He did that since we was like in fifth grade. So he wanted me to pursue those things, and it would have been a more of a problem for him keeping me back home than for allowing me to do that. But yeah, it was incredibly difficult to like decide to go out there. It was, yeah.
Well, can I share? I think this is a perfect time to share. I think many people on this call were at our symposium in April in Livonia, and some of the people on the call were at our summit last week in Mount Pleasant. And we sprinkle exercise throughout the whole program. And many of you are on the exercise classes with Angie Ludwa. And Angie does the juggling scarves. And I have to say, so I've known Ben for Jamin's dad for a long time, been along his journey for many, many years. Um, and I learned of his passing last week. And I told Angie Ludwa when I went into the office on Monday morning that Ben had passed away. And she told me at that time, she said, he's the one that taught our class at Rocksteady Boxing how to juggle scarves. And I have used that exercise ever since then. So it is a fantastic exercise if anybody has seen it. If you haven't seen it, there is probably a recording on our YouTube channel from the symposium in April. And we have Ben to thank for that. So I just had to get that out because I love this whole story that has tied in with him.
Yeah, and for those that probably don't know, my dad passed away. I had already had plans to do this while my dad was still alive, but he passed away Saturday at 12:45 in the afternoon from complications from Parkinson's. So I'm honored to be here tonight, though, to speak to everybody.
And we can't appreciate that more, Jamin. And I know I speak on behalf of every single person in attendance that's just holding you up.
Love y'all.
So then another question I wanted to ask is, and I know this can vary from people, from when they get diagnosed and their journey and, how it affects them at what stage and what age, but were there any issues that, like having to work and having to take care of your dad, or any financial issues or spirituality, or is there anything that really seemed to take the forefront, or was something you were really dealing with that you could share with us about?
Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I'll try to focus in on a few major, things. One, it was to be like away from my dad and in Los Angeles, thousands of miles away was difficult, and to not really know what to do to help out was, I couldn't cure it, so I dealt with a lot of helplessness, like I said, and that was really difficult for me to kind of deal with. I would talk with my dad and like there's just nothing I could really find to do. So I had a lot of frustrations with that. You probably see in the picture there I'm wearing a sober shirt. That's a Phoenix. It's a nonprofit that deals with provides sober active community. I got sober in 2019, May 3rd of 2019. So that was probably 6 years or so into my dad's diagnosis. And that really was a thing that took what was a very confusing and difficult time and really allowed me to be present for myself, first of all, just my mental health and my family and my well-being, and then also to be able to better process what was going on and be fully present for my dad and understand these are the things that I can do and these are the things that I'm not going to be able to do. So I know that we were talking about the serenity prayer a little bit before, Julie, about how that everybody's heard that, grant me the serenity, accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it can be very, like one day at a time. Yeah, sure. They're simple things, but when you really concentrate on them and you apply them to your life in a spiritual, meaningful way, they really changed. And I should say, I shouldn't say you. For me, they changed the way that I was able to show up. And so for what went from a lot of frustration it couldn't find a place really went to a place of acceptance. And here's what I can't deal with, and here's what my dad will accept and do. And, here's where, I heard somebody talk about not being, going to support meetings and things like that. And like, I can encourage my dad and do these things. And this is what I can do. And this is what I can't do. How do I want to spend my time? And it's showing up to being however present I can for that. And then in 2020, it popped up on my Instagram that the Kirk Gibson Foundation was something that I could do for run for charity. The Detroit Free Press Marathon, the Kirk Gibson Foundation for Parkinson's was a charity partner. And I had been meaning to run, and I already was running a half marathon for my year of sobriety. And I was like, it popped up on my Instagram. I go, okay, well, it was meant to be like, and that really like that for me gave me a lot of direction and connection with my dad. We were always, into baseball growing up. Like he coached all of our little league and all these things. And we knew Kirk Gibson. So it really like brought this focus as to what I could do. And then I could run, I could bring awareness, and I could show up for my dad in whatever way possible, and that led to that marathon in 2020, which ended up being a virtual marathon, which I ran in LA and raised a bunch of money. And then subsequently did three more after that, ending with, the fourth marathon being the one that I ran and pushed my dad with this Hoyt running chair that we raised money for. And yeah, that really, and now I'm working on a documentary as well about our experience together and what it's like to have a family member with Parkinson's. And it's more from the angle of, what is it like to be with somebody who's dealing with Parkinson's? What does the family really deal with, and what does it really look like from that, the period where I picked it up to now? Obviously, we didn't know it, but all the way into the end, and because I often see Parkinson's kind of cut off at this certain point where you kind of go dark, and then I don't see that person, and I don't know what the end looks like, and so anyway, I know that's kind of
No, no,
long-winded, but that's
I'm
what
so
I'll
glad you brought that up because that's what I wanted to say. That you took your situation and what you've done as an advocate and brought awareness has been amazing. And I will encourage everybody to follow Run for Ben either on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. It is great what you've done and how you did this for your dad. And I know that was a big goal for him to be a part of that marathon. And you
Yeah,
did it last year, and I followed your whole journey, and it was just a great day.
yeah,
I loved seeing your dad's smile on his face the whole time. So congratulations to you. And I want to encourage people to look out for this guy because I think great things are coming. I can't wait for the documentary to come out and whatever happens after that. So I don't know if you have any final words or advice that you'd like to share before we move to our next speaker, but just appreciate you so much, Jamin.
yeah, sure. The thing that I would say over anything is wherever you're at, just try to show up honestly, vulnerably, and lead with love. If you can have those things and really, for me, honesty and vulnerability were really the things that helped me to really embrace where I was and what I could do. And I understand the frustration and anger that may come with these things, but especially being on the other side of this right now, I was watching a video of which you can see the picture on the Run for Ben Instagram, but I was watching a video of my dad last night. I was just up late watching this video of me and my dad interacting after the 2022 marathon. And he patted me on the back, and he said that he was proud of what I did. And I looked over at him, um, and he had to take a nap because it was 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and he was too tired to hang out, but he still wanted to spend time with me. And he asked if I was still going to be there and if I could bring a sandwich back for him when I had dinner. And all I want to do is sit and eat a Culver's burger and fries with my dad after a run right now and spend and talk and spend time with him. And I don't care if he was able to accept it or not able. It's the time that you have with wherever they're at, and you get to be with them in this time. And I promise you, on the other side, you'll do anything for that hour or that half an hour or that sandwich, or that frustration of dealing with them is going to be so much more minimal. So try to let those things go by and have acceptance for them, and then just be present wherever you're at. And if you need to take a step outside, which that sometimes you have to do, it can be frustrating. Take a step, take a breath, and make sure you're reaching out to other people who know what you're going through. I have a people that I call and know what it's like to deal with that. And having somebody like this, and obviously you're on this call, but having somebody who understands what you're going through and will give you the grace to go through what you need to do is really huge for me. So I love you all. To be able to be here is an extreme honor. And if you ever need anything, please reach out to me. I will be there for you. I promise you.
Well, we all send our deepest condolences to you and your family. And Ben is someone I will never forget. And we look forward to all the great things that you're doing. And congratulations, that was wonderful. I
Thank
know I
you.
share the sentiments of everyone.
Yeah, he's free now. We run
Yes,
together.
he is free. We do have a question though. Let's see if we can get that question. What do you suggest for Parkinson's patients whose children don't want to admit or accept the Parkinson's diagnosis? My two sons, I'm their mom, don't want to discuss anything to do with Parkinson's. And I thought this would be a very common question that we would get. And I'm curious to hear what your response. I know that wasn't the case with you, but maybe you can shed something on that. Jamin?
Yeah, yeah, I'm thinking about it. I mean, so if I'm getting this right, Brenda, you have Parkinson's, but your children don't want to accept that from you. Sometimes, a lot of times it's the opposite way. Um, yeah, geez.
It's tough, and I think, and you know what, Brenda, we're gonna move on to the next speaker because maybe what the next few people have to say might shed light with their experience, and we can definitely come back to this. I know I have my thoughts on it too, so
Yeah.
let's do that if that's okay.
Okay, that'll be fine.
All right. So our next speaker is Ashlee Jed. And Ashlee is actually the granddaughter of Judy Jed. Just get my screen to move, which it doesn't. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. So I was lucky enough to meet Ashlee when she came to a support group with her grandmother. And I personally have seen an incredible change in Ashlee. And so I thought she would be great to share her story.
Yep. Hi. So I'm Ashlee. I will be 32 on Saturday,
Happy birthday.
and yeah, I live in Royal Oak, and my Nana has Parkinson's, Judy. She's 83 and she lives in Livonia. And that picture is one of our vacations to Myrtle Beach. When I was younger, we used to go at least once a year, and it's been a tradition. So that's the picture of us there on the beach. Yeah, so she was diagnosed probably, I think, around the beginning of COVID, which was right, like right before. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, she was like the beginning of COVID, and she kept it to herself for 3 years. And so one of the things that we do together is we go out to lunch, and sometimes we'll just sit in the car in the parking lot and people watch. And it was last fall. We were in the Westbourne parking lot, and we were eating Taco Bell. And she kind of just randomly dropped it on me that she's like, "So I have Parkinson's." And, it was like, oh, well, I have a mouthful of burrito. Um, but I definitely feel like I wanted to cry at that moment, but I was trying to be strong. But mostly out of just not knowing. I wasn't like upset that I kind of roll with the punches. So and I'm not surprised because she has a very mild case of Parkinson's, and she has a small shake in her left hand. And I never like put two and two together, but it wasn't it, I accepted it pretty well. I think the thing that was just most upsetting was that she waited, but that was, that's her prerogative, and she was probably, trying to comprehend. everything. And I think the thing that upsets me about that is that I know it was during COVID, but I feel like since I'm, technology, I'm like good with that. I feel like she could have had access to the resources that she needed to at a sooner time than when after she had told me, because I do take her to all of her appointments when she needs therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, anything like that. Of course, I come to the meetings. I'm the one who takes her because she doesn't drive anymore. So she's dependent on another person. And so as I said before, it's just, I wish that, given what was allowed during COVID, that she could have had access to the resources sooner. So yeah.
Yeah, and did you deal with like when that happened, was it a lot of fear because you didn't know much about Parkinson's, or was it disbelief, or did you have anger or any of those feelings at all?
I was like a little blindsided. I mean, there was, just because of the way it was introduced to me, she was just, straight up. There was like no, easy slide into that little introduction. She just came out with it. And so I was like in shock, probably.
Mhm.
But what's nice about how I found out is that she invited me to go to meetings, because first her son and sometimes my cousin would take her to meetings. And so she invited me to come to the support group right off the bat. And I agreed, because I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And as a millennial who should not web MD anything, um, I I chose not to Google anything, because I didn't want to. And as you said, like, everyone has their own experience and their own symptoms and everything that they're dealing with Parkinson's. So I didn't want to generalize what she could be going through. And so I was really shy, and like I was timid when I first came in, just because there was the whole unknown thing. But I felt welcome quite fast, and I was very interested in learning, because how I kind of view it is, as I said, I roll with the punches. It is what it is, and I'd rather do and learn anything that I can to make her journey easier. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
And I just want to speak to the point, because it was my support group that you strolled in on, um, that to witness really, Ashlee, how much you've been committed and involved with your grandmother has been wonderful. I think the first meeting, if I'm correct, Judy
Mhm.
came by herself, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think, yeah. And so it's wonderful to see that she felt comfortable enough to reach out and, realize that she could use some support, and that you should become educated. And I think it's wonderful how you've stepped in and have been, so you participate in our support group meetings. And I think that you did share with me you've learned quite a bit. And
Better than WebMD.
better than WebMD. Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah,
Take
I mean, yeah, and the guest speakers, the doctors, huge difference in my point of view on things, for sure. It's that this just the clarity it provides is like night and day.
Yes, that's wonderful. So I think that's great. Do you feel as though there's barriers that are in place that prevent you from um, really being there in the way that you want, or whether it's emotional or financial or jobs or distance, Or do you feel like there's any great lessons that you've learned that you'd like to share with, or any advice for maybe even any kids or adult children that might be on the line that really haven't had the conversations, or haven't really attended support groups or educational meetings, and maybe this is their first meeting, maybe this is the meeting that is going to be recorded that the person with Parkinson's will share with their children?
Mhm. Um, don't assume, I would say, is the biggest thing that I've learned. Um, because, it is a complicated disease, but at the same time, for me, everything that was taught to me via going to the support group was it was black and white to me. Like, I know what can happen, I know what to expect. Um, so I feel like that's probably the biggest thing. Because, I didn't really, I wanted to initially cry that first time just because of I was in shock. Because, as Jamin was saying, Michael J. Fox, that's all I really, and, it was like not even in depth. Like, I just knew that he shook from it. And I had seen one interview, and that's literally all I knew. So, just don't expect the worst, because I feel like you're just going to overwhelm yourself, and the person in your life who has Parkinson's, they need, they don't want that, like for them or you. Um, and just let the person know that they're not a burden, and that they are loved, and to not be afraid to ask for help.
Mhm.
Because I feel like a lot of, especially older people, who, they're just used to doing everything themselves. They also are kind of blindsided and adjusting to what Parkinson's is and what their symptoms are. They're still learning about themselves. Um, I would say, yeah, that's what I would say. But, for me personally, I am so blessed to be in a position where my partner, Josh, he brings in most of, what we need financially. So, we do share a car, and we live in Royal Oak, and she lives in Livonia. So it's a drive. It's like a half an hour. But, you know, I'm just so used to it, because when I was dating Josh before we lived together, he lived in Pontiac and I lived in Livonia. So Judy, pretty much, she raised me from birth until I was 10. And then after I graduated high school, I moved back in with her. And then I moved out when I was like 27. So she's been a part of my life for a very long time. So I don't, I want to do things for her. I don't feel obligated. She's my best friend. So the drive isn't terrible, and I have been able to, find, like a job, like from an app where it's flexible. So like she's my priority. And then I can plan around what she needs, and I can still kind of supplement what Josh and I need financially. So that's definitely been like a blessing, especially because, I have to drive Josh to work a couple of days and pick him up a couple of days. He works in Detroit. Um, but what I've just come to is just, as Jamin was also saying, like, it's enjoy that time that you have. And I do that not just with the person in my life who has Parkinson's. I do it with everybody. And I enjoy my drives with Josh in the morning, just so I can have the vehicle, so I can either do something for Nana or go and do a job on one of the apps that I use. So, I mean, as a just rolling with the punches.
Great. Well, I think that's a great message. And I don't know if you have any final advice or anything else that you'd like to share, or if you want to wait till the next speaker. Um, it's up to
Oh,
you.
just be positive, because positivity is contagious. And that's something, she struggles, with something sometimes, and you just gotta, be positive about it, and then reassuring, and then I feel like, you know, they'll be more open to sharing how they feel and what their needs are.
Mhm. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ashlee. And if Judy's sitting over there, you give her a big hug for me. Hi, Judy. Thank you so much for participating. So our next speaker is Terry Whitfield. And I'm just trying to get him pinned here, but my computer, what is going on? Ah, sorry about this. I don't know why. Why? It was absolutely fine 5 minutes ago. Um, sorry. Breathing on me. Okay, there we go. Anyways, Terry is here tonight sharing with us. And Terry's father, Bill, has Parkinson's disease. And I knew I've been lucky enough to meet Terry and Bill, and I invited them to participate in this as well. And I know that we'll learn great things from Terry as well. So Terry, would you like to just introduce yourself and tell people when your dad was diagnosed and what you remember when you learned of his diagnosis?
Hi, thank you, Julia. And everybody. Again, my Terry Whitfield. I'm born and raised in Detroit, live in Detroit. Married, had a about to be 2-year-old son on Monday. Um, really didn't think that was going to happen, but it happened at this age, and so I'm 46. And so actually glad to go third because listening to Jamin and listening to Ashlee gave me time to reflect on the journey that my dad has been on. I believe that he was officially diagnosed in 2018, I believe. And the reason why I say that is because for our family, like the information that you take, it's just like you keep moving. And so I was like, oh, you have Parkinson's. Okay. We weren't really seeing any symptoms per se. I wasn't, just shaking. He was still working, still active. We were still, golfing on a regular basis. And so for me, it was just, oh, okay, you got this. So what do we need to do to make sure that we can track and get you the support that you need? He's my mom. They've been married for 48 years in September, and are just as disgustingly cute today as they were when they first met in 1974. So, I know that that has been a tremendous help for him, because they are thick as thieves everywhere. So once we found out, the goal was, okay, so what do you need? How do we learn more? And that's when we found out about the Livonia area Parkinson support group, and the meetings every month. And for me, that was a tremendous help to be able to go with my parents and learn more about the disease. Because again, like Jamin and Ashlee mentioned, all I knew was Michael J. Fox, and my dad wasn't shaking like that, so I didn't know about the stages and the different ways in which the disease develops over time. So the support group was awesome for me from a knowledge perspective, and then for my parents, for my dad, and for my mom to be able to understand that there were others out there, that there were resources out there. So he was able to, from that point on, really tap into a lot of the different opportunities and resources that were available to him as a Parkinson's patient, as a Parkinsonian. Thank you for that language, Julia. And so,
I made it up.
from there, never felt, um, I've always worked to have a sunny disposition. Positive energy is really like my superpower. And so, in those moments where it's natural for myself or for my dad, like why me, why me? For me, it was like quick, like why not us? Why not him? We're not so special or so, but like he has touched the lives of so many people as a former basketball coach, referee. Served him and my mom, served the homeless for 10 years every Saturday, never missed a Saturday. Very much involved in his church life. And so
Veteran?
veteran, which is a whole nother part of the story, and that how does he allow for this to be his testimony to others? And you bring up the veteran part, like he I don't know if I'm gonna screw this number up
Hey,
because
Terry, hold on one second.
yes.
I don't know if it's just me, but there's the audio, your audio keeps going in and out a little bit.
Yep, I'm sure it does because my laptop is so fun. So I'm going to keep talking and then call in and use my phone as a microphone. Hopefully,
Uh,
that
it's
will
it's
help.
not constant, it's just occasional. Um, and then I wasn't sure if it was too far away or I was
Nope, I appreciate that. No, because I'm like, and I talk loud, so it is an issue I've been having with my laptop.
okay.
Now, I'm calling in right now,
Okay. Sorry
so I
about
can
that.
use
I just
that.
well, I
No, you're
wanted to
good. No,
hear
you're
what you
good.
have to say. And I didn't know if it was anybody else, but I noticed it. So hopefully we'll get you on. I am glad to hear you sharing this and talking about how, I know that as I've gotten to know you and your family, how positive you guys are and how you you support each other. I almost think of the Whitfields and I feel like a little cartoon where like all the Whitfields are moving together in a little, I love it.
And that's and so hopefully this is better, and hopefully
It's
it
good.
doesn't. And please and let me know, Julia, if it does go in and out again. But my dad fought in Vietnam. 300, 400 young men went with him over, and he was one of five that came back. And so that level of survivor's guilt always sat with him, and he never really wanted to acknowledge or even accept the fact that he, fought in the war. And so, as the Parkinsons continued to progress, my older brother was finally able to convince him to go through the process of getting his benefits because of his Parkinson's diagnosis. And so, throughout the course of 23. I took it upon myself because my mom was still working full time. My dad was working part time. And we were able to convince him that this journey was something he needed to go through in order to not have to work anymore and be able to just enjoy the rest of his life and actually retire. That my mom now is able to retire and be his full time caregiver. And so it was through that process of going to his appointments, being able to hear what the doctors were saying and really work with him to understand what was happening. And also gave me a better understanding of his diagnosis and where he was at in comparison to where he could have been. And so even as the disease has progressed, the doctors are letting us know that he's still in a good space. He's still able to get around. He's still able to drive. Obviously, there are things that are occurring that are posing challenges, but he's able to fall down literally and get back up. And that to me is like the greatest example as a dad, as a son, is that when you fall down, you get back up and you keep moving, and that's all you can do. And when it's all you can do, that's all you can do.
Yeah, that absolutely defines the guy I know. Um, and so would you say, like, what is your greatest advice or lesson for anybody that, maybe newly diagnosed or maybe to the family that doesn't have that close knit? I know I'm going to share a little bit later about maybe anger and isolation and things like that. But is there any advice that you would give to anyone going through this
Um,
process?
First would be to feel the feelings. The worst thing you can do is to suppress it or to ignore it, push it away. The more that you're able to just experience the feelings, identify what those feelings are. If you need to talk to somebody, go and talk to a professional. I got my degree, my bachelor's in psychology, and the one thing I remember from it is that it is amazing to have somebody to talk to that you don't know, that you can just get it out of your system. Um, Find others that you can be in community with. Community is important. So whether or not it is a caregivers group or a actual Parkinsonian group that you can be engaged in, community is everything in this moment because it is easy to self isolate yourself or from you and your family member. And then again, Jamen giving that serenity prayer, really being clear in terms of the things you do have control over, and being okay to let go of the things you don't have control over, and truly just understand the best thing that you can do many times. And I'm a recovering problem solver. I like to solve problems. That's just how I cope with just life, is how do I help people get over stuff. Many times it's not a problem to be solved. Parkinson's is not a problem to be solved. It's a tension to be managed, and the various tensions come throughout. And so how do I, when my dad is in a moment where he needs to talk, how am I just listening? When my mom is in a moment when she just needs to talk, how can I be most present? And then for yourself as the child, don't put yourself in a position where you have to be Superman, because that's how I feel. And many times I sit with guilt that I'm not able to be over there as much as I might want to. I'm not able to be physically present as I might want to. But in those moments, how do I make the best of those moments? I'm a new dad. This is a lot of things that goes on that in my mind, I hear it and I'm like, that's an excuse. But the reality is what it is. And so when I'm able to be over there, make the best of the moments. When I'm not able to be physically present, how am I able to give them a call, check in, things of that nature. But really making sure that I can be present so that I can be the best that I can be for him.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I'm just curious for our panelists, before we go into our next segment, if does anybody have the fear that they're going to get Parkinson's? And anybody think about that? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'll speak. Yep, I've definitely. Sometimes I have, like the slight tremor in my ring finger on my left hand, and I don't know. Like it comes and goes, and it's like rare right now, but it has happened a few times, and it's so slight, and I don't know. Like I'm like, how am I doing that? Like I'm not making myself do that. And then there have been probably a handful of times where I can't like swallow something, like it just like my muscles in my throat and my brain are just like not connecting properly and they just won't work. And that's happened a couple of handful of times. So I'm definitely, curious and would like to figure it out because, the earlier you know, the better. And, so.
Something you think
Yeah.
about for sure.
Yeah.
Jamen or Terry?
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it a ton. I know my age versus when my dad was diagnosed, and when I'm pretty carefree as well, and pretty roll with the punches and the positivity. Like each of the speakers today, I really connect with that. But that doesn't mean for me, it doesn't mean that we're not humans, that we don't connect with this overall understanding that before this, I didn't have mortality in my face as much as it is now, and especially now. So, and I've seen Parkinson's. My dad was very, very fast progressing Parkinson's, faster than a lot of people. Julia, it progressed very quickly and did pretty much everything he got.
Yeah.
So at a very young age, he passed away at 65. So I'm aware of that. And certainly I have a fear about what that could mean for me. I once asked him, and this may be in the documentary, who knows, that if he knew about Parkinson's, would he rather know about Parkinson's and be diagnosed, or not know about Parkinson's and be diagnosed? And he said he'd rather not know. And I agree. I would rather have not known what's going on, because I know in my dad what to expect. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the same for everybody.
Right.
Now, that being said, there's a ton of things that I think about, but when I'm out on my runs and when I'm doing something that I'm able to do, I'm fully aware that this is a gift, that time is a very precious gift, and that I'm able to run and breathe and walk and eat and do all these things is an extreme gift. So I have a gratitude list each morning, and very simply, it can be my health today, because none of us are promised tomorrow, even if we don't get Parkinson's, So it gives me a lot of gratitude for today. And really, we're only living this moment, right? We're not promised tomorrow or the next day, and tomorrow's already gone. So yeah, it's there, but fortunately it gives way to, presence and joy in what I have right now.
Yeah. Terry?
I speak in and I think in movie clips, and with Jamen and Ashlee, the movie Step Brothers coming to mind. Like, did I just find two best friends? Yep. Because it's so one. I wouldn't say fear. It's just an awareness, and that's an awareness of a lot of different, like, high blood pressure runs in my family. I'm aware. Like, there's some mental, like, there's just a lot of things that are within my bloodline that I am aware of it. And now this is just another piece that I am aware of. And to Jamin's point, I picked up running in 2020. I've run marathon, one man marathons, like walked out my house, ran 26.2 miles. And the funny thing is, with every step, with every breath, I am like conscious of like how I'm feeling. I play football from 8 through 22. That's another thing that I'm just consciously aware of. And I would rather not know. Like, I would rather just continue to build, fill my cookie jar of experiences and mental strength, so that if and when that day comes, that call comes, I'm mentally prepared to be able to support my wife and my son to help me as we navigate into that next phase. So, and again, that's something that I've learned from my dad. Like, at the end of the day, you just have to continue to pick yourself up and keep moving.
Yeah. Well, I want to just get through a few things really quick, because we are running out of time, which is great. It's gone by so fast. It just makes me believe we have to do this again. But I wanted to let people know that there are resources to go to. Genetics is a big one that people often worry about and they question. And a person with Parkinson's, I've heard them over and over again go, well, I worry my kid's going to get it. Well, first of all, there's less than a 10 to 15% risk of a hereditary, that it's hereditary. So more commonly, people develop Parkinson's disease by things in their environment, Agent Orange, toxic water, chemicals, paraquat, Roundup. That is the majority of the way that people get Parkinson's disease. But there is genetics, but it's a very low risk, about 10 to 15%. There's a new product on the market that just came out it's great. It's called SIN1 skin biopsy test. And what it is there were no biomarkers to confirm anybody has Parkinson's disease at this point. There isn't a blood test that you can do or anything like that. This skin biopsy test has a 97% accuracy rate to detect the alpha-synuclein clumping that leads to Parkinson's disease. It's a 15-minute test that is covered by insurance that can be done in the neurologist's office. But it's brand new and it's getting out there. But this really answers a lot of questions for the people who do worry about it or who do want to know. We will be having more information on our virtual education series, particularly about this skin biopsy test since it's new. The National Parkinson's Foundation also does free genetic testing if you're interested, but they only test on 7 genes, and there are over 100 genes identified with Parkinson's. So that's not a for sure thing either, but that is another resource. And there is a DAT scan available, which is like a CAT scan, a neuroimaging test where you can, of your head, where it measures the dopamine in the brain. So if there's a lack of dopamine, that's a pretty good indication that they may be leading towards Parkinson's as a diagnosis. And then things in the future that are coming out, there's a lot of research right now at the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Michael J. Fox is sponsoring a lot of research right now, as well as some pharmaceutical companies on spinal fluid. And you would have this done through a spinal tap. We're not quite there yet, but those are things that are on the horizon. I want to encourage everybody to reach out to resources like the Michigan Parkinson's Foundation, our support groups. I'm a big fan of the support groups, probably because I was dragged to them my entire life. Now I just have guilt. But you do learn a lot. And you don't have to commit to going every month. You can go when you see a topic or go when you want to, or the weather's nice. I really encourage people, not only with Parkinson's, but their family members and their children, to attend support groups. We have a newly diagnosed class every month. I'm teaching the first Wednesday of every month at the Foundation for Newly Diagnosed. It's called PD 101. This class was designed for people, oftentimes when the doctor would make the diagnosis of Parkinson's, it was kind of like, well, I think you have Parkinson's and I'm going to give you a script and go home and take this medication. And if it works, that means you probably have Parkinson's, and let us know if you need anything. We'll see you back in 3 or 6 months. I think that's a crime, but it happens every day. If you were diagnosed with cancer, you'd walk out of that appointment with a binder, a social worker, your MRI scans would already be scheduled, and you'd have a follow-up appointment, and you would have support group information. We're really trying to change that. And like the Serenity Prayer, I have to accept the things that I can accept, right? So I created this PD 101 class, and it is available the first Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. And if you are not in the Metro Detroit area, we also have a recording that we can share of that class. We do our virtual education series. We also have an incredible 7-series caregiving videos available on our YouTube channel. I think those can be very helpful for understanding some of the challenges that people have with Parkinson's. So many family members have requested those videos, and their feedback has been very positive. Again, our YouTube channel as well, I think is another great resource. Davis Finney, the National Parkinson's Foundation, PMD Alliance, Michael J. Fox Foundation has a wonderful talk about talking to children and teens about Parkinson's, a guidebook. There's a couple of books here I've listed here that are available, and you can even find many of them on Amazon on how to talk to your children or your grandchildren about Parkinson's. I'm going to do a special shout out to My Nana Has Parkinson's, teaching your young children about PD, because Antoinette or Tony Talbot, She lives in Lansing and very active in the Michigan Parkinson's Foundation and wrote this book. And it's wonderful and it's available as well. So I am sharing a picture of me and my dad, who had Parkinson's, but I wanted to go back and address the question about children that don't accept it or admit Parkinson's. For me, my dad was diagnosed the year I was born, so I had no choice to accept it or deal with it. It was my normal. I didn't know. And it wasn't until I got a little older that I did start to develop some feelings of anger and resentment. And in fact, when it came time to go to college, I picked the farthest college that I was accepted to because I thought out of sight, out of mind. And I realized once I actually was away, how I was really struggling being away, feeling a lot of guilt. But I also started learning more about Parkinson's in different ways than just learning what my mom and dad would say. And I sought counseling at that time when I was in college because I was really struggling with it and I was really angry. And then I even started to resent one of my sisters. Hope she's not on here. No, I started to resent one of my sisters because she had such a great relationship with my dad, and I felt like I was missing out on that. And then I had resentment for my other sister, who was much older than I was, who had absolutely nothing to do with my dad. She was living her own life, married, had her own children, and I didn't really see her getting involved with his care. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer because everybody has their own journey with this. You know, my sister that is 10 years older than I am, she remembers a dad who was healthy and didn't have a lot of challenges. For me and my younger sister, we don't remember that. He's always had Parkinson's. And so her journey was very different from ours. And the Michigan Parkinson's Foundation was a part of, as much as it was a part of my life, my entire life. Well, not my entire life. It's 41 years old, the foundation. I'm 42. No. But I think that I really did learn a lot from the speakers, the classes. In fact, about 30 years ago, I sat on a panel called Adult Children of Parkinsonians. And to connect with other people that are going through this, I don't know, we all have the right answer or the correct answer. To me, there's one word, and it's education. You have to learn, you have to know about it. And I think a lot of times the fear and anger are driven by the lack of education. So that's my answer to that question. And I'm happy to open up any other questions or answers that people have. Let's see.
Since this was brought up, I've been thinking about it pretty much consistently since then. I think it's, you know, number one, I'll just say this, like, my heart goes out to you greatly because that's got to be very difficult situation for Brenda. So my heart goes out to you. There's a couple things that just popped up to me. This is my experience of what I would hope. I think probably it's driven by fear, right? But you have a life that you're living right now, and you have to prioritize that life and your joy and what you have. These things really help me. There's a book called Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. I think it's a wonderful book about shame resilience, and it talks a lot about vulnerability. It was very, very big for me to access my vulnerability and my sensitivity and just accepting life as it came. I read that and it really changed a lot of my perception along with my sobriety. So there's a couple of quotes that came up that I was looking at when I was thinking about this. Number one was, this is by Daring Greatly and Brene Brown. It's only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. And then the other one is acceptance. This was by Michael J. Fox. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means understanding that something is what it is, and there's got to be a way through it. And then, you know, I have a lot of, I have assumed there's probably a lot of fear that's going on about that. But I'd say a couple things is like, hopefully they can find a way to allow you to access that because you have this particular amount of time left and you deserve to have joy and acceptance and be fully live this life without having to hide that away. That's my opinion. And I hope that they find a way to accept that. And if you want to give them my number, I'm certainly happy to share my experience with them as well. I can be pretty direct on things. I have a lot of patience and understanding for what they may be feeling. I would have to ask more questions to understand a little bit more deeply, but we can't deny something that's there, and that unfortunately denies your reality. And I don't think that you should have to deny your reality at all because it's your life and you're a wonderful, beautiful person who deserves to have a good life with that.
That's
That's my
Just
2
to add to that, Jamin, it's this idea when you get on an airplane, they tell you that you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on somebody else. Brenda, I would encourage you to take care of yourself. What you eat doesn't make anybody else defecate. So this is your experience. My advice, or take it as you will, like how are you just documenting your own experience? Like what Jamin has done with his documentary is awesome. Like with technology that we have, how are you documenting your own experience so that when that day comes and your children and your sons have to deal with this, that they've got something that they can then look at and see how it progressed and be able to, at least in that moment, be with you in a way that they possibly or should have been with you at this point. But at the end of the day, you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
so important. Yeah. I know there was another question here from Andrea. She lives in Virginia. Her dad lives in Michigan. It's so hard to be this far away and know when it's time to say it's time to stop driving or time to move. Yeah, and I saw that you had replied as well, Jamin, and I just want to say that that is such a hard topic to broach. You know, it's a careful, you have to be careful not to become the parent, right? And you still want to provide dignity and respect, but you have a ton of concern and caution. I will say this is that I don't think you can get prepared for Parkinson's and how it progresses early enough. You don't want anything to sneak up and surprise you. And then you have to try and figure out problem solve very quickly, and life gets in the way. Parkinson's at this point, unfortunately, it's not going to get better. We don't have a cure yet. It doesn't mean that someone's going to die tomorrow. I thought my dad was going to die for 45 years. Every year I thought that was the year he was going to die. He didn't. It was 45 years, you know. So, but I think being prepared and having those difficult conversations are super important. All right. And Jamin shared his phone number. And Jamin, what was that book again? Could you share that in the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it up there. It's Daring Greatly by Brene Brown.
Okay, great. Yeah. Any final thoughts or questions anyone has? You can unmute yourself. You can raise your hand. Whatever. I'm going to stop the sharing here. Bring you back up. Hearing no question. Any final thoughts? All right. Well, good. I'm glad we've just answered all of life's questions tonight. I want to thank our speakers again, Ashlee, Terry, Jamin. Of course, we're thinking of you. And I hope everyone really got something out of it. I think we should do it again, honestly. I think that we're all here, we're all in it together, we're all here to help. If anybody needs to connect, you can reach us at the Michigan Parkinson's Foundation, and we're happy to do so. So everyone take care, have a good night, take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Night,
Good
everybody.
night.